Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Public Safety and Justice Affairs Committee meeting this Tuesday, November 21st. Roll call, please.
And just as a reminder to all who are in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Ms. Conwell.
Present.
Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. There is a quorum. Also like the record to reflect that Councilman Miller is in attendance.
Welcome, Mr. Miller. Public comment.
Mr. Chairman.
No, Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
Public comment. In your packet, you received the meeting minutes of October 31st. If they're in order, I'll accept the motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. And I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Against? Thank you. 2023-0325, who's presenting for that?
Resolution number 2023-0325, authorizing an amendment to contract number 2497 with Alcohol Monitoring Systems for GPS alcohol bracelets and monitoring services.
Chris Costin, Sheriff's Department. How y'all doing today? Sheriff's Department is requesting an amendment to our current contract we have with Alcohol Monitoring Systems for our GPS. We're expanding the scope to add 725 straps and additional funds of $550,000 to get us through the end of 2024.
So this will bring us to 725?
Yes, we'll have 725 straps. These are going to be new additional straps.
Personnel for that?
Personnel?
Good on personnel for the added?
That would be a question for the sheriff.
Okay.
I cannot
He'll
answer.
be coming up, and I'm sure we'll hear
He will be
about
here
that.
shortly. Yes.
Okay, questions?
I just wanted to ask Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
ma'am.
Chris, what's your last name?
Through the chair, Costin, C-O-S-T-I-N.
And looking at the timeline, I assume we want to move this forward.
We would like to, yes.
Okay. If everybody's okay, we'll move Resolution 2023-0325 to the full council under second reading suspension. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I don't see, do we want to wait for Brandy? Okay, all right, I know she's on her way, so, okay. 2023-0326, please.
Resolution number 2023-0326, authorizing a contract with OnSolve Intermediate Holding Company in the amount not to exceed $585,000 for purchase of a mass notification system.
Good afternoon, Council. Jill Smilek for Department of Public Safety and Justice Services. This is a 5-year agreement with OnSolve Intermediate Holding Company for our mass notification system, which we refer to as Ready Notify. Ready Notify is used to transmit warnings, alerts, recalls, notifications, and other types of emergency communications. Currently, we have about 46 different communities within Cuyahoga County who use this system, and an additional 27 divisions or agencies throughout the county or other public entities. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions from the committee?
Through the chair, mass notification system. What exactly is it used for?
Through the chair to Councilwoman Conwell, this is our emergency notification system. So if there's weather alerts or road closures, anything like that, we can send out a mass notification. It's also used by the county to communicate to county employees if there are closed buildings or things like that.
And so why, through the chair, why only 46 communities? Is it a memorandum of understanding? We have more communities in Cuyahoga County.
Through the chair to Councilwoman Conwell, yeah, right now we're at 46. We're actively trying to get additional communities to buy in. There's a few who do not use it at the moment, and they actually have their own systems that they contract with individually.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, sir.
Why are we purchasing a system at this time? I thought we already had a system in place.
Through the chair to Councilman Miller, we do have this in place. This is an extension of the agreement that we currently have. So we're looking to contract with the same carrier or provider for the next 5 years. The reason why we want to use the same provider is because we've invested a great deal of time and resources in getting communities trained in using the system. They've agreed to hold it at the current annual rate for another 5 years, and they're actually upgrading us to a more modern system as well. So it's just a continuation of the current system. It's not to replace it.
So do we actually own the system, or do they just provide it for us?
Through the chair to Councilman Miller, they provide it for us. We do not own the system.
Okay.
And,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, that's actually a good question, because the way this is framed doesn't seem to say that it's an extension. And the initial one was 5 years?
The initial agreement was 2018 through December of 2023. So yes, it was a 5-year agreement.
Because normally we like to keep these contracts at 3 years. Is there a reason why we went 5 last time and then 5 now? Is there a financial incentive of some sort to do that?
Actually, I'm going to ask our emergency manager, Mark Christie, to come up to address that. He may have some additional background information. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mark Christie with the Emergency Management Office for the county. To answer your question, I think first, we've been very satisfied with the vendor and wanted to continue the relationship with them because the service has been excellent. Secondly, there was cost incentives too for a longer period of contract, which I don't have that information in front of me, but there was, I think they quoted us for 3 and 5 year contracts, and the 5-year one was incentivized at a lower rate.
So this, through the chair, this will expire, the new contract, if it goes through, will expire what year?
2020.
Through the chair to Councilwoman Conwell, the current agreement goes until December 11th, 2023.
Okay, so when we talk about diversity and equity, how will you look or justify that with the RFP going forward in 5 years? Because I think that's probably the issue, is that using, even though they gave cost incentives and things like that, we always try to open up for other companies to be, and agencies to have opportunities at stuff. So that would be my only issue with this.
Through the chair to Councilwoman Conwell, that's a fair point. It is something that we can take into consideration for the next round of purchase for this system. And also just pointing out too that with 46 communities who are signed on to it already, I think we're covering a very good portion of the county, and we'll certainly keep in mind the diversity and equity conversation moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I can see that we will be running out of time if we don't move this under second reading, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Well, if everybody's comfortable in moving Resolution 2023-0326 for the full council under second reading suspension, I'll accept a motion in a second.
So moved. Second.
Hearing a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I'm gonna
Against?
say one no. Based on that, and, you know, I know it'll still pass, but in terms of the diversity and equity, just sticking point.
Well, that contract would run through them anyhow, I would imagine. We can look into that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Under discussion, we have the sheriff.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, we need an overall vote. I just
It
got
was
the
one.
motion in a second.
I think it was 3 yeses
It
and
was
1 no.
3-1. I had a motion from Tuma,
Pat,
second by Kelly.
that was Pat, or made the motion.
Motion by Kelly, second by Tuma, and the vote was 3-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sheriff?
Good afternoon, council. Thank you for your time and all your diligence over the past few weeks with this whole process. I have a very short presentation we're going to go through, but before I start, just going to introduce some members of my team who are here with me today. I have Chief Deputy Aaron Reese, Chief Deputy Dale Soltis, Chris Costin from Fiscal, Donna Camilo from Fiscal, Sergeant Schlegel from the Electronic Monitoring Unit. PowerPoint. Oh, just click. Sound good? Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. And actually, as we get into this, I'd like to ask Chris Costin to give us a quick 30-second overview of the overtime in our budget.
Good afternoon again, Chris Costin, Sheriff's Department. I want to first start off with a quote from a wise councilman back in October of 2021. Definition of budget: a statement of the financial position of an administration for a definite period of time based on estimates and expenditures during the period and proposals for financing them. And I believe that was quoted from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. I bring this up because, as you know, the process of a biennial budget, you have the OBM base budget, the agency requests any changes, then it goes to the exec for recommended budget, amendments, technical amendments, and final. I speak of this because our 2023 projections just in overtime for the entire Sheriff's Department is $20 million. The OBM base budget came back at $19 million and change. We were okay with that at the time. Somehow we ended up, after the amendment of $2 million of the amendment yesterday at the budget hearing, we ended up with only $10 million in overtime costs. That is important because we've been focusing on the jail overtime, but we got to speak to law enforcement and overtime as well, which we project $5.7 million just this year with no recommended budget from the executive, the total budget. PSOs and Sheriff's Ops has a little bit of budget in overtime, but not enough to support the whole year. Thank you.
Yeah, Chris, that was not 10, 8.
Was that?
So it's even worse.
Question?
Okay, thank you, Chris. Thank you, council. Just to discuss.
So, through the chair to the sheriff, so Chris stated that it doesn't cover the sheriff's overtime. Why is that incorporated? I know we also help additional cities.
No, that is
I just want to be clear.
the majority of the overtime incurred by the deputy sheriffs is for the medical transports and sitting and watching of prisoners at the hospital. That's what the bulk of it is.
Okay.
There may be something else here and there of overtime. Court goes over. There's a jury that's sequestered. Those kinds of things. But the vast majority is for medical for the jail.
So it's going to be longer hours of overtime the further the jail is.
entirely separate discussion, Councilwoman, but that is, that's a good point. I think that the medical model will also be retooled in accordance with our new facility at Central Campus, and that may be adjusted there at that point.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Chris. Thank you, Council. Just wanted to discuss the overtime, which is a reality of our world. I did also want to mention, just for clarity, based on discussions and based on council's request for clarity on my initial presentation, today's will not be as long. However, but I do want to address the overtime thing and the fact that even at our current number, overtime is necessitated by the hospital and medical requirements, which the sheriff's department and certainly deputy sheriffs and supervisors do not control. So that is a factor which we have to respond to. Something occurs and we just have to, we get the call. If someone has to go to the hospital, it's an emergency, they have to go, they have to staff it. It's not like we pre-plan, this isn't a pre-planned operation, a pre-planned criminal interdiction thing, jury or anything like that. So it's something that when it comes to the management perspective, we have a super team here who's doing a great job. It's outside that scope. It's actually reacting to things that require our support. So I want to certainly make sure that we're aware of that. It's not that the management team, sergeants, lieutenants, captains, et cetera, are incapable of managing. That's not it. These calls come in, these escorts, people who are ill have to go to the hospital and we have to go. We can't say, well, it'll cost overtime, wait till tomorrow. We can't do that. So that is what drives the bulk of the overtime there. Just a quick overview of our staff, and I did present this, and I wanted some clarity on this when I sent council this last week at the request, was where we are, what we need in total staff. This I know is memorialized. I understand, I'm not going to talk about this ad nauseum. However, I did have the electronic monitoring unit, which Sergeant Schlegel was in charge of, at the top here, because there are a couple of things that highlight with that, a couple of critical situations that just occurred last week that I think it's important for us to be aware of as to what they do. And I'd ask if we could just play one of those videos, please. Just give me about 30 seconds here, and I'd like for you to just view this video, just highlight some of their work.
It's beautiful. Jose. He's here. I got him. You're not in trouble, man.
Get away from me.
You're not in trouble. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Get away from me.
Okay.
Get away
Okay.
from me. No, get away from me. No, get away from me, bro. Get away. Get away. Get away.
He's got it. It's okay.
Get away.
I'm here. I'm not moving. Can you?
Please get away. No, please get away.
I'm working.
Please get away.
Can you let me talk to him? Yeah. Okay. That's okay. That's okay. Let me put this away. You're not gonna need this. What's going on today, sir? You're not in.
I'm in trouble, bro.
You're not in.
I'm in trouble. I took my GPS off, man.
I know. I'm not worried about that right now.
Jail. I ain't going to jail.
You're not. I'm trying to get you help because you don't need a jail.
I'm not going to jail. The only thing y'all can do is arrest me, take me downtown. I'm not built for that shit, bro. Unless I can go to a hospital and get actual help.
Yes, sir. I promise you that.
Because I know it's not. I know it's not gonna happen, bro. I know it's not gonna happen.
100%.
I'm not going to county. I'm not gonna go sit down there, bro.
No,
I'm not gonna go sit down in county, man.
Jose, I'm Jacob, and I can promise you right now, this is what I do. I will take you personally to the hospital. You're not going to jail right now. Because
In the hospital, man. I'm not
because jail is not the answer.
Okay, just want to give you a quick highlight. There's more to it, but I want to just mention a couple things. One, the gentleman cut his bracelet off. Two, when they found him, he has a screwdriver, which he puts to his neck, threatening self-harm. And as you can see, the deputy is doing a super job of de-escalating and talking him down. With that screwdriver in hand, we know that a lot of things could have happened, could have been very bad. Had he turned towards the deputy, charged towards them, et cetera. So I want to highlight that and listen to what a gentleman says. I know I'm in trouble. I cut my bracelet off. I'm not going back to jail. This is the reality of what they deal with every day. In this situation, this individual was under monitoring for domestic violence, strangulation, abduction. Okay, so very violent offenses. He's in a situation. He, for whatever reason, decided to cut. And I have one more short clip for you, and then we'll move on.
Sheriff's Department! I got 2 crawl spaces here. Take yours. Sheriff's Department! They were clearing the last crawl spaces on the 3rd floor. I see his feet. We got a body. Let me see your hands. Get me some guys upstairs. Let me see your hands. Now! Crawl to me. Crawl to me. I see his hands. Hands are empty. Crawl to me now. I'm coming out. Come out. Now, don't crawl out on your own. Let go.
Okay. That just kind of like highlights the intensity when something like this happens. Again, we have an offender who is caught, who is absconded. They're tracking him down. But the most important part about this, I wanted to get your attention with these is when these happen, if they happen simultaneously, the ability of the electronic monitoring unit to respond is critical. And that's why we continue to make that request on their staffing. And that's why the staffing numbers, to clarify that, because there were some questions on council on that, to clarify that, that's why those numbers, the ask is for that. When they do cut or they abscond, and part of this deployment, I will tell you, the victim in this case, a team of deputies immediately responded, notified local authorities to the victim's house to inform the victim, hey, the offender in this case cut, you may be in danger, we're going to secure you, and another team went to secure the individual. So that's the nature of the work that they do, how dynamic it is. I thought it'd be important for you to see that as to why we keep mentioning electronic monitoring, because that is one of the tools that we have. I don't want to say reentry, but certainly one of the tools that we have to keep the population down, and we know that. Courts, field operations, the remainder of that, you can certainly read for yourselves. The need is everywhere, but I wanted to highlight the electronic monitoring. I'd like to ask Chris to come and speak to these contracts, which were addressed and approved before, but I didn't see in the budget, just so we're clear on these.
Hello, Chris Costin, Sheriff's Department. I do want to clarify, going back to the overtime, the $10 million that it was in the, after the amendment included $2 million of the PSO budget. $8 million was the amended budget for jail, $2 million for our PSO department. So that came out to $10 million, not the 8.
What was PSO?
Protective Services. So what you see on the screen, Chagrin Valley Dispatch, current contract 2794. We had this approved on council on our 2022-387, dated 11/9/2022. The contract period for this is 1/1/2023 to 12/31/27. Total contract amount, $2.4 million. And there's a breakdown between law enforcement, jail operations, protective services, and juvenile justice that uses these handheld radios. We had this approved back in 2022. We had meetings with OBM and the former chief of staff. They said they will give us the money for this contract in future years. We had several discussions back in 22 about many requests that we had, but we have not seen those requests fulfilled.
1 second. You had discussions in 22 about these contracts for 23 going forward. They're not in the budget.
Correct.
So-
Now, this was the former chief of staff and the current director of OBM and other people from Sheriff's Department. Yes, we had discussions, we had meetings, and they told us, and I have an email saying that they will put this in our budget.
They didn't.
From 20, they did put it in 23, but 24, 25 budget and 26, well, we didn't 26 yet, but 24, 25 does not have it in our budget.
Anybody else have any concerns about that? Mr. Tuma?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I mean, do you have any concerns that it's not in further budgets? I mean, I understand you said they did it for 23, I think you said, right? Correct?
Yes.
But, a year or 2 years from now, lots of things happen in the county. So are you at a comfort level?
I am not, because we are tight on our budget as it is, especially in law enforcement, that if it's not in our budget, we have no way to pay. And as you see in the videos that Sheriff says, those are the radios that we're using on the streets.
Yeah.
So they need a way to contact, help or anyone else with these radios. So yes, I do have a big concern that it's not in our budget.
Okay. Yeah, I would venture to guess that there are other areas that the administration could look at reducing costs and maybe ensuring that these necessities are met. That'd be my hope and my expectation from the administration in something like this.
What's the total amount that's not in the budget?
From our original requests,
Yes.
let me go grab it from my other books. And
Let
I
me
have-
ask you this. Was it denied?
It was not in the budget, so I'm assuming it was denied. Because during our discussions, we let them know that this is a contract for multi-years.
And when you say we let them know, who are them?
The former chief of staff and the director back in '22. We had our budget hearing August 7th, not our budget hearing, excuse me, our budget discussion with OBM. So the director was there, Ms. Gallagher was there, Mr. Chambers was there, and they're all know in our presentation that this was a multi-year contract. We broke it down like it was broken down on the slide by our division, but none of them received it in our budget.
And no official explanation at all?
No, and unfortunately, just like the overtime, there was no discussions between OBM, executive teams, or the sheriff's department about why things were taken out or not added.
Sheriff, did anybody contact you about this?
Councilman, no, I was not contacted on it, but I do understand that this was previously approved even by council. So again, being my first go around with the budget here, it would seem to me that somewhere there'd be some placeholders for these multi-year contracts because it's contracts for Motorola radios from all of the divisions, obviously to achieve interoperability or maintain interoperability. And it's something that goes forth. I know it's January is the first payment. And it's a payment and for years after that. So that was my understanding. It's something that was already in place and there was placeholder for it. That was my understanding.
With the previous administration?
I can't speak to that, sir, but just when fiscal presented this to me, that was my thinking, that since council did approve it and
Okay,
that
Chris,
would have been part of the process.
Is the previous administration said yes?
Yes, that is correct.
The present administration, were they made aware of all of this?
We submitted this information, like I said, we had our discussion with OBM, and Ms. Gallagher was there, so I had slides, and I handed handouts that same day that, yes, they were aware of these requests.
I notice on this slide that under Chagrin Valley Dispatch, the total contract amount is not to exceed $2,405,368. And on the Integrated Precision Security Support, the total contract amount is exactly the same amount to the dollar. So can you confirm that that's correct? That seems surprising.
We'll have to get back to you. That could have been just a typo. But the current year is broken out by law enforcement jail op. You just take that, we'll multiply it by the total for the Chagrin Valley.
Okay, so it looks like one or the other of them might not be the right amount.
Okay. Well, we'll get down to the right amount. I'm concerned about the communication between the sheriffs and the administration and then us. I see the stab-proof vests run here. Sheriff, that was on your presentation and request, your line item of request. I don't recall any of this other stuff being on the line item of request, which leads me to believe that you were under the assumption that this was incorporated in your budget?
Yes, sir. Being previously approved in the previous year by council and the staff, the team at that time, one would think it was something that they've kind of going forward. Not sure what the process is. I will say that obviously interoperability is something important to our county. I didn't think that would be an issue, so I can't speak to that. But that was just my thinking that having been previously approved, it should have been, have a placeholder some set for it, but.
Okay, let's do this. Let's get the numbers correct. Let's get the timelines correct. And then we're gonna have to readdress this when we get all those, or maybe we're getting those now.
I think that Chris and Donna have these now.
Okay. The handheld radio is the correct amount.
So that's the correct number?
That's the correct number.
Trevor, could you notify the administration? We need somebody down here now. Okay, until we get somebody down here, if you guys would just take a seat, keep your engine running. And Sheriff, if you just go forward and we'll try and get to the bottom of this.
Got it. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, I'll have them speak on that. Just wanted to go back 1 second here, back to the original numbers for the request. Again, thank you very much for council for your time deliberating on this, as well as the executives team. We've had a lot of discussion on this. They are aware of our need going forward on this staff. Again, I know that some things we have to walk slowly, but they have committed to support things as they come. And I know that we normally ask for numbers in different places. I know that there will be a 1-year look back, so there is some opportunity to continue working on this. But I wanted to highlight those numbers because that is initially what we set out when we know we're going to make some improvements in the department and make things more robust and adequately staffed for the mission at hand. That's what we recommend these numbers. Can we get to them tomorrow? Maybe not tomorrow, but certainly in the future. I see those in our horizon. So I want to keep those numbers and know that that's what we need to make. That's what's necessary to us to conduct the mission of 2024 Modern Day Sheriff's Department in Cuyahoga County.
So if you go back to that.
Yes, sir.
So 11 on the electronic monitoring, 18 more in the courts, which seem to be the priorities, obviously. Yet we have this downtown impact unit. Why aren't those guys covering these slots?
Councilman, the downtown safety patrol is something that was created because of what's going on downtown affecting everyone. Downtown being the core of our county and being where the greatest amount of impact is to the greatest amount of our community members. No matter where someone lives, whether it's in Lyndhurst or Rocky River, their family and friends and neighbors come downtown, whether it's for fun or anything else. So the impact of the violence spiking downtown Cleveland was affecting everyone. So that was a need to get that unit in and actually make things better. And their impact is felt throughout the region because of the nature of their work, sir.
Well, I'm just trying to be practical here. If there are needs within the county, those have to be addressed first. And I can almost guarantee you that after this hearing, the courts are going to have input as to why those 18 aren't already on staff when we're in basically covering Cleveland's job on the streets, so.
You know, Councilman, the only thing I'll say to that is the entire county is a responsibility of the Sheriff's Department and how we divvy the resources to address these. When the executive hired me and council confirmed me, it was to run this agency and ensure we deliver the best service that's required of us. And that service includes some things that affect other communities as well as things that affect governmental functions. We have done those forever, and that's part of our mandate in the revised code, the governmental functions of courts, of the jail, and certainly public peace is something what we're doing out there also. So a very small part of our agency does that. There are 8 deputies assigned to that and a sergeant, and that's a small component for the impact that they give.
I'm just arguing, be as a devil's advocate here, is that when we have in-house needs, and you're listing that, we need to take care of in-house first.
That is a duly noted position, sir.
Okay,
So,
go ahead, sorry.
okay. No. So staffing needs, obviously, they won't be addressed tomorrow, but I want to make sure that we're all clear at council's request that this is the plan that we laid out for the Sheriff's Department to move forward. Administration's aware, and I work very closely with them on kind of where we're going forward.
Mr. Kelly.
Okay. Chagrin Valley, and I'm sorry, that's the next slide. We'll talk about that. And
Mr. Kelly.
Oh, I'm sorry. The council, my apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could we go back to that slide that showed the
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the one you just had there a second ago. The one with the contract.
Oh, with the
amounts on
contract?
it.
Yeah, that one? Okay.
So I'm looking at the decision package report in our budget book. Handheld radio, I'm trying to look for the handheld radio contract, CM 2794. I'm trying to see if that's on here. I don't see anything that matches up. 175. There's a handheld radio contract on here for $178,920 under the commissary fund. Where does that fit into all of this?
The only thing I can.
It's under the decision package on
Okay.
page 72 of our budget book.
I don't have that in front of me, through the chair to the councilman, don't have it in front of me. Let me see if any of my fiscal staff has a knowledge of this. Okay, good.
This should not be in our commissary. This one, commissary cannot pay for anything like that because commissary is for the inmates only. So I think the budget book is incorrect.
Is there a contract number CM 2794 anywhere in your package that you have for radios?
I'll go look at my notes to see what I have here. I also requested someone from the office to email me as well.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, go forward. Just want to mention, last week, we had another fatal overdose in the correctional facility. We also had another overdose that was not fatal. I only mention that to highlight the jail K-9 program. Expansion of this program is going to save lives in the jail, and that is critical. There are 4 entry points. There are other points, but I'll just give you the highlights. There's 4 entry points into the jail where this program is needed, and that is coming back from courts, central access, Sallyport, and the dock, because those are all areas that can allow poison to be introduced into our facility. We have body scanners in place. We have metal detectors in place. We conduct pat-down checks, all the above. But the technology, which is robust and which is state-of-the-art, and it's welcome, and thank you, Council, for your support over the years in attaining that technology. Reality is that it's terrific for a lot of things. Bombs and guns are really not what's coming into the jail right now. Obviously, poison's coming into the jail, and canines detecting this is the ideal tool for that. So that was the ask for this program. And just so you understand that when we have that in place, we've looked at different models of putting it in place, and we are ready to pull a trigger on that because that is important, that we save lives by detecting this dope coming in. It comes in various forms, various ways. It's just a myriad of things. However, it is our mandate to ensure that the custody, care, and control of our facility remains poison-free. So that's why I want to highlight the jail program and how it's going to work. Additional officers to handle those canines. So every single person entering the facility, from the sheriff or someone from public health or someone from public works or the guy working the elevator, that person will be sniffed for narcotics coming in. So that's going to help us to save lives. So thank you for your support in that program. Yeah.
Thank you. Through the chair. To the sheriff, I actually spoke with a law enforcement official in a municipality, and he said, one of the concerns with the new laws concerning marijuana are with some of the canines that are used to sniff out drugs, and that's one of the main drugs that they sniff out. How are you going to address these changes that are on the horizon with respect to the dogs? Are they going to be maybe assigned to do some other things or retrained in some capacity? These are some of the nuances, I think, that maybe proponents of particular issues, not to say good or bad, just might not have thought out readily. And I know you have a number of canines here. So is there any thought given to that?
Yes, sir. Through the councilman through the chair to Councilman Tuma. Absolutely, sir. A couple different mindsets on that. One is that if you have a dog you're training now, you do not imprint that dog on marijuana because there's going to be a lot of marijuana out there. In the correctional setting, that is contraband. So in a correctional setting, we will still be able to imprint for that.
Right.
And there is a whole school of thought by master trainers on whether or not you can take an existing dog who is imprinted for marijuana and in essence de-imprint them. And I think even in that discipline of canine training, there are some different thoughts on that. But the fact is that going forward, sir, in our setting, in a correctional setting, anything like that is contraband.
Right.
And
Okay.
oftentimes that marijuana will be laced with something else. There'll be
Yes.
something else to it.
Okay, good to know. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the sheriff. So on your request for the 8 additional canines, I asked for that in the budget. And ended up with 4, which is, that was approved, so that's 4 more than you had.
Absolutely.
8 certainly would have been better.
Yes, sir.
But, I mean, it's a start, I guess, right?
No. Through the chair to Councilman Kelly, thank you very much for your support on this issue. And use 4 is better than none. It gets us there, helps us move the ball forward. We do have a couple of existing canines, so we just need to continue to add to that as we go forth. But thank you, sir, because that is absolutely going to be a game changer for us in saving lives in the jail. So while I mentioned that about the jail, I also want to mention that there's a lot of things that we're doing in it. There's a lot of thought that we're just kind of it's just like a holding area and that's it. There's a lot that goes on there and a lot that we're doing to ensure the security in it. One thing is we talk about reentry. Now, granted, with the average stay being about 34 days per inmate, it's difficult to do a lot of programming. You're not going to solve all of the issues at one time of joblessness, GED, driver's license, child support, housing, et cetera, in 34 days. But if we can make the appropriate referrals, and we're doing that, in partnership with the Public Defender's Office, in partnership with Catholic Charities, and other things that we're anticipating here, some additional programming we're adding. So those that are leaving the facility, we're actually going to make the best referrals for them, best connections for them. And if we can, while they're in the facility, provide the best services that we can. So that is one other thing that we're doing. Obviously, we're also looking at even the commissary, what's available to them to make the stay a little better. Why? Because we know there's things we can't change until we move to Central Services Campus, but in the meantime, we'll make the stay as humane as possible. So I wanted to highlight that to you also, along with promoting within the ranks of corporals and sergeants in the facility is going to give us additional support for our staff, and the continuous recruitment that we're doing is also going to support our staff. The additional people we bring in are going to help us spread that workload out. It makes coming to work a lot better, a lot easier for our people. So I want to certainly reassure you that that's the track that we're on in the jail. So next, my final slide here. Just the cost of hiring deputies, so we know what the round numbers were, and this is provided an average deputy pay, 20 deputies, 2.1 million, et cetera. That's something we presented earlier, and that's ongoing discussion with the executive chief of staff and his staff as to how we can add some additional depth to our bench as we move forward. I know it's going to be difficult. The budget is tight, but as we go forward, and based on yesterday's budget hearing, there is a little bit of movement in the budget, so I'm anticipating that we'll be able to make some gains, particularly after our first year look back, and certainly as we get into the following budget cycle, when I'll be a little more familiar what to suggest and how to present things to council and to the executives team. But I thank council, I thank the executives team for certainly helping us and working with us and getting this put together.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
In working with the budget and management, we've heard a lot about this number that there's $6 million that's hardwired for overtime in the collective bargaining agreements. Am I correct that that takes place in the correction officers and not in the deputies?
Through the chair, through the council, and I believe that is correct, sir.
And to the sheriff, there's been a lot of discussion of the idea that as as you get staffing closer to the right amount, you should be able to reduce the overtime. And we've certainly made progress on corrections officers. You noted that the overtime for 2023 is projected at 20 million. If you were to make a concerted effort to reduce overtime in 2024, consistent with a good operation and getting done what needs to be done, what would be a reasonable goal as to what the total overtime number could be for 2024?
Through the chair to the councilman, we're speaking about the correctional center. You're talking about the numbers?
No, I'm talking about total for the sheriff's office. What would be a reasonable goal as opposed to this year's 20 million?
Through the chair to the councilman, I think that 20 million projection for overtime is reasonable given the amount of staff. Could we work on that a little bit? Could we change some, modify some practices, maybe impacting morale, maybe could we impact some of those things and it'll reflect? It might move the needle somewhat south. But in general, at that current number of staffing, when it was projected after pay 12, I believe it was, given our staffing there, the only way to really bring that overtime down is to continue to increase the staff. And I appreciate your support in increasing that, because that is definitely going to drive it down.
So, Mr. Chairman, to the sheriff, you're saying that you believe only a modest reduction from the $20 million number would be achievable in 2024. Is that correct?
Through the chair to the councilman, given the numbers where we were at pay 12 to where we want to be, I think that is a modest reduction would be it. Adding the additional staff to that, I think we can make a more generous reduction to that.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman, to the sheriff, I think the budget is a work in progress this year and over the next couple of years, and my approach to budgeting is to get it as close as possible to reflecting the actual expenditures that are likely and reasonable to be incurred. So we have more work to do. The one thing that I would note is that I looked at the sheriff's office actual expenditures for the first year of the new government, 2011, compared to what it is for 2023, and compared that to the expenditure for the HHS levy, and for the sheriff's office since 2021, it's increased 88%. And for the Health and Human Services levy, it's increased only 21%. And the point that I'm making is that important as public safety is, there also should be careful attention to how we can improve efficiency and achieve cost reductions without impacting the effectiveness. And I know that in discussion with the administration, they believe that there are opportunities in the sheriff's office to achieve some efficiencies. And so I would encourage you to work with them on that and to try to see where operations can be improved and some cost savings can be affected. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman, and that's something I'll certainly take under consideration, as we always do. We have routine meetings to look at those efficiencies, but there are some things which are outside our control, and the biggest example, glaring example of that is the medical transports. Medical transports come at all hours of the day and night, and just this morning, they sent out a text asking for 2 deputies for a dialysis run. That, we have no control over that, for whatever reason, and there's many other medical things that we do not control. So that is, and again, that is the vast majority of the overtime. If we look at the structured schedules, when we look at field operations, we look at courts, we look at the civil division, the overtime there is minimal. minimal. And that is something we control. We look at efficiencies, we look at changing starting hours, those kind of things to make it the most efficient operation. Where the variables are, where obviously that, where the big delta is where we don't control. What we do control, we do a fairly good job, sir, but I will absolutely continue to look for those efficiencies, not only on the deputy side, but on the correctional side, because there's always something you can shave off here and there, sir. I'll continue to look for those things.
Thank you very much.
To my colleague's point, one of the things that also has to be taken into consideration with improving efficiency is the cost of technology has probably increased since 2011, I'm sure, with all the tools that law enforcement has at its reserve there. So, in addition, Cleveland is a very dangerous city and has been for a number of years. And, we need to ensure that we have the proper manpower in place, person power in place when looking at these budgetary needs. So, and in addition, with the opioid crisis that we've had over the last X number of years. So I understand my colleague's comparison, but taking the reality of what has happened with the region that we're currently in, one of the realities is sometimes you do have to pump money into law enforcement in order to get more results because of the numerous problems that we have in this region. And it's unfortunate, but it's a reality that we live in. So I understand maybe, perhaps 88% is too high, but some of that I would say is, as you said, kind of beyond control of the department itself and the reality of what we live in, the world we live in right now. So just wanted to kind of make that point that there's an awareness here that it takes money to fight some of these outside sources here that that we're doing our best to remedy.
Oh, that's for sure, sir. Thank you. Appreciate that, because, technology is a good point. That is something, as we know from the Motorola chargers and everything else, it's certainly on the uprise, and it continues. But yes, thank you. But we always have a keen eye to see where we can effectuate some reduction and optimizing our efficiencies. That's what we're all about. Thank you.
Okay, we wrapped up?
Thank you. Yes.
So,
Ms. Khalil has some budgetary update here for us.
Good afternoon, Council. Donna Khalil, Sheriff's Finance Manager. A couple of things I'd like to point out. Just right off the top, talking about overtime, the medical transport overtime right now this year, we're going to hit about close to $3 million in the cost for the manpower. That doesn't include the cars, the charge back on the cars, things like that, about $3 million. And that's for the outpatient runs, the ERs, the details, everything. And then the jail overtime is closer to $7 million. That's the built-in. So right there on that $20 million, there's $10 million that's completely out of our control. So I just wanted to make that point to start with, but then to go back to these contracts, and I was mistaken, and I'm going to have Chris come back up here, but the 2.4, see, when we put these together, we put the total contract amount. These are for like a 3-year and 5-year. The 2.4 is for the integrated precision. Now, that's building security hardware. We have 500, so it's $800,000 a year now. That's the new cost. It used to be $500,000. What happens is when they hang new hardware, new cameras and everything, they're under warranty for a year, but then they fall off a warranty and they get added to the maintenance contract. So the maintenance contract is now $800,000. We have $500,000. We need $300,000 more per year in the budget for the rest of the year. And that's going to continue to happen as we hang new cameras and then they fall off a warranty. So right now, what we need for integrated precisions is another $300,000. Going back to Chagrin Valley, the handheld cameras, now these, the handheld radios, what that is that's $800,000 a year that we have to pay, and that's for jail, protective services, and law enforcement. The $86,000, that's juvenile, that's on their budget.
Janine,
but what happens is
we pull that slide up.
Oh, they want the slide.
Oh, okay. Go, keep going.
What happens is that in 2022, this was approved by council, but this contract was not in our budget in 2022. When they did they did the personnel based on pay 12, but they did the I call them the other costs. They did that based on 2022. It was not in our budget. So when you guys approved it in 22, they did give it to us in 23, but then they mirrored the 22 budget for anything outside of personnel, and the handheld radios was now not in the 24-25 budget, and that's $800,000 a year across the entire sheriff's department. And those radios give us complete interoperability, where the jail can talk to law enforcement, can talk to building security, can even talk to juvenile justice.
In your budget, was that made aware to?
When we, oh, absolutely. So when we get the initial budget from OBM, then we turn into them what's called ODIs, decision items, operational decision items. And we made them aware, we discussed it with them. The handheld radios, we told them, is already approved. It was approved in 22. It was not in 22's budget. When they did the 24-25 budget, they did not put it in there, but we made them very aware of that. But it's still not in the budget. So again, and that's $800,000 per year, and so that's where the typo is. The 2.4 under Chagrin Valley, that's actually 4.4 over the course of 5 years. It's $800,000 a year for the entire sheriff's department. So I'm hoping I bring some clarification. That was a typo on our end, and we apologize for that.
Okay.
So again, so the integrated precision is $300,000 for each year for the next 2 years, and $800,000 for the handheld radios for the next 2 years each year. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Can you, to Ms. Khalil, can you give us the same kind of analysis regarding the third item, the Public Consulting Group?
This one is all Chris because he handles all the chargebacks. We have to charge back for building security.
So this public consulting, it's an ALCAP software. It's a cost allocation plan. This is through our PSO budget, protected services. We incorporate all these costs. Right now, we're manually entering this information into Excel. We have try to formulate every quarter based on FTEs that were provided from Human Resources, and we charge back all our costs to different agencies within the county. This software here, the total is $258,000 over a 3-year period. That it does include the support and maintenance of the software. It's going to alleviate a lot of our time putting this together manually. So what we do is we take the information from Infor, we go ahead and get this into the ALCAP software, and it go ahead and does all the calculations for us. Every quarter we have to do this. It does take a lot of time. I know we try to get as accurate as we can every quarter, but you know, manual entries in Excel, you do make mistakes. We do hear a lot of complaints from agencies. Every quarter we have to explain it. One thing nice about the software, if they have questions, they could actually go into the software. They could be a looker into the software and see how these charges were brought about per their agency.
And is money for this item not in the budget?
That is not. This went out for an RFP. And again, we let everybody know that this was going to be intended award. But no, it's not in our budget.
So $86,000 per year would take care of it?
Where the bulk of the cost is the first year, because you got to build the software, it's about $170,000, and then you got the maintenance for the next 3 years.
So that means it started on early in this year. So you already covered most of it this year.
Correct. It was about to go to Board of Control, and then it was pulled back. We had discussions with the fiscal officer and other agencies. Public Works was included. Most of it, they agree with the software that it can help out. We wanted to be the guinea pigs because we focus just on our chargebacks for our security. It's a small piece of the big puzzle what this software can do. So no, it's not included in our budget, but they were made aware that we wanted this software.
But it has not gone live yet. We haven't even been approved on this yet. This has not gone live yet, though. We've not even been approved. We brought this, we did the RFP, we awarded, with an intent to award, but it was, at the time, it was denied over at Board of Control. Was it at Board of Control? It was denied at that time. So this has not gone live. So the first year would be the 178 and I think 30 maintenance, and then after that it would be 30 and 30 or something along those lines. So the first year would be the bulk of it. But yeah, we've paid nothing for this yet because again, we've not gotten approval.
Okay, thank you.
And this has been consistent throughout, and I've really not asked the question. The 2% for the cost of living, is that sufficient?
Most of our contracts are at 3%. So that I know we're going to fall short. I know the last time we had the budget hearing, and I heard Walter say that they put 1 million in for our CBA, for all the ratified agreements. And we're estimating closer for all the ratified agreements, for all the raises, they're going to get closer to probably around 5 million. And I'm pretty sure that's across the board, correct? That's across the board. So that's why we know our overtime next year is not just so much overtime, but just personnel wages. We're going to fall very short next year.
2%, you're saying,
It's, most of them are 3%. Almost all of them, I think, are 3%.
and going in, they knew this.
Correct. And again, I heard them say they put 1 million in the budget for the CBAs, but yeah, that's not even close.
Well, that raises another concern on how many other agencies are facing the same thing. Could you do me a favor, Donna through the sheriff, is a lot of numbers have been thrown out here. Could I get not an exact, but can I get a ballpark number of the next 2 years, 24, 25, of what you anticipate being shortfalls? And I would want included the real number as opposed to the 2% number, what that real number is, and add that in for each year so we actually know where these numbers are coming from and what shortfalls we're going to be addressing.
We absolutely, we can get you like a summary if that's what you're, and we can also.
Well, yeah, because as the confusing thing is, and I see Mr. Janis is here. Mr. Janis, unfortunately, you weren't here for the majority of the process, so I think you're the wrong guy to be here. So we're going to have to pursue this with whoever had their fingers in the pie of figuring this budget out for everybody, because I'm now my antenna's up on everybody across the board, especially on this 2%. So
We'll get you a spreadsheet with what we're anticipating over the next 2 years. We'll just send it to, do you want us to just send it to Andrea or?
Trevor.
Trevor? Okay. Yeah, we'll send it over to Trevor and we'll get you like a breakout and we'll try to.
We'll bring you back in most likely in the new year, because I want to start looking at all these numbers across the board, because now my concerns are growing. So if we could do that, that'll get us a start as to what we're going to be looking at.
Absolutely.
Because these things aren't going away.
Correct.
And it's a little disturbing to me that they were on the table. And I don't know if they were forgotten, ignored, or pushed to the side. I just don't know. So we'll have to get to the bottom of that.
Correct. And we did present it, but we'll get you something again, but we did present it. They're right now giving us 177 mil. We're saying we're closer to 212 million, but we'll break it all out for you. Right now, we're anticipating between a 25 and 35 million dollar shortfall. It all depends on the deputy hires,
Right.
but that's where we're projecting. But again, we'll get you a nice breakout and we'll send it over to Trevor.
Okay. I appreciate that. That'll give us we could at least then start focusing on what we're facing,
Okay.
what's
Yep.
coming down the pike.
Absolutely.
I would, and thank you. I would tell, with the new facility, we're talking about savings. With the new facility, if and when we ever get into one, there will be definite real cost savings, which I anticipated would go back into the facility, especially in the medical. I know the transports are killing us. Sheriff, would an MD at night or on weekends help alleviate that a little bit if we were willing to pay Metro for that service?
Councilman, that's something to consider. I think that some of those, either PAMD, whatever it would be, having it during off hours would be beneficial. That we have to go back to the contract for that and see how much coverage we could have, because then we could take care of people actually in the facility. We have a lot of capability, but I think that the professional designation would not be present. That's why we go to Metro for a lot of cases.
And one thing, and I informed some of my colleagues, I was going to be making a request after talking to you and some others about the jail, I forget the name of it, the overseer of the prisoners.
Contract compliance person?
No, the one that came through the agreement with the federal court when we got sued over all the deaths in the jail.
Oh, is it
And
monitor?
we agreed to
What's his name?
hire,
Chief Soltis?
we agreed to hire and implement.
Part of the Clay lawsuit, sir?
Yeah, to,
Okay.
to,
There's a name there, I can't recall it.
I forget the name of it also. No, there was an agreement with the court when we got sued that we would institute inside the jail a compliance officer regarding prisoner movement, something like that. And I forget the exact name of it.
If I may, Dale Solis, jail administrator, I know we're currently in litigation, finishing up a litigation where there's several positions that have been identified through that, and such as a contract monitor and some other positions that's going to be coming forth through that lawsuit.
Yeah, this was a previous lawsuit. There are so many that, you know, and hopefully down the road with a new facility, we're moving forward without all these lawsuits. That's the hope anyhow. I'll get the exact name of it, but for my colleagues, it was, I believe the cost was 130. All in was about 170, and I'll be making an amendment request on the budget for that position to satisfy the agreement with the federal court. Not something that I really want to do, but it seems we're going to have to show the court that we're in good faith moving forward, trying to make things safer and better.
Thank you, Councilman, I appreciate that, and any additional depth, certainly at that executive level, to help us with management of jail and related needs is certainly welcome and necessary, so I appreciate that, sir. We'll make it work. Thank you.
Any further? Yes, ma'am.
Through the chair to the sheriff, can you send me a list of the different type of lawsuits that we've had that were in relation to the, just the type, not who?
Okay.
Yeah.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, yes, I will get that from the law department, get to you, no problem.
And thank you, Mr. Boyle. That's a jail population manager.
Jail population manager, okay.
We have agreed with the court. Mr. Janis, if you could, and thank you, Sheriff, I appreciate your testimony here today.
Okay. Council, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Janis.
Chairman, members of council, good afternoon.
Yeah, and if you've been listening, I don't know if you were, and I kind of feel sorry for you.
It's okay.
It's always a bad time during the budget because we don't have any money. But it's become obvious and a great concern that some of these numbers are not being addressed, had not been addressed, or if they were addressed, the proper individuals, heads of the department, weren't informed that certain things weren't going to move forward. I would highly recommend that you get together with the sheriff and his people and try and figure this thing out. These are not wants, these are needs. And I'm a little concerned on this 2% on the cost of living. That I got a real fear that that's going to bite us real hard, real soon. And I would like to avoid that.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your perspective. I will absolutely be having these conversations. And then some, just for clarity's sake, as this was not a budget hearing, none of our fiscal folks were planning on being here, and frankly, none of them were in the building as this conversation emerged. I would also just add, as you all know, we are always going to meet our contractual obligations. It just becomes about where the money comes from, whether or not there's money elsewhere in the sheriff's budget to do it at a particular point in time, or whether we need to come back and ask for authority or an additional appropriation. You know, the issue should be how we figure it out. And given that I am new to this, and I've heard a little bit of the conversation, I was not listening before I was called. I will be getting to the bottom of it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
To the chief, one of the things that we heard today is that the Chagrin Valley dispatch contract, which is basically for the radios, was started in 2022, but the the budget reference was taken after that point, and as a result, $800,000 per year in that contract is not incorporated in the budget, and the same thing, $300,000 per year for the integrated precision contract. And those are contracts that we actually have in place, and it's hardwired that we're going to incur these expenses. Could you consult with budget and management and confirm that this report is correct, and if that's the case, I would be for amending the budget on November 28th at the second reading, and at least adding the 1.1 million per year that we know is hardwired for contractual obligations.
Mr. Chair, to the council member, I will absolutely do that. Not privy to what prior conversations might have been had regarding this with prior sheriffs and administrations, but we will work together to figure it out.
Okay, please let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the chair, through the chair. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate your newness too, so I do understand that. But could council get a list of all approved contracts in all agencies that are not funded?
Mr. Chair, to the council member, I will get you those if they in fact exist.
Yeah,
I would hope they do not, but I will find out.
Just want to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And might as well deal with the 2% across the board, because that's going to be a whopping number if indeed that is true. These are the difficulties we run into when we have crisscrossing administrations, crisscrossing sheriffs and every other individual in different divisions. It gets a little bit messy. This one seems to be particularly messy, which we're not very much used to. It would be helpful if somebody were sitting at that table every single committee meeting that we have, and I would ask that you would provide that for all the council committee meetings, because it's very important for us to at least have somebody that we can turn to ask to get the information if they don't have the information. I know everybody's not versed across the board regarding everything in the county. It's a tangled web. We know that, and it's very difficult to be an expert in every area. But regarding the budget, I'm hopeful we can get through this, but we need to know the real numbers.
Mr. Chair, we'll be happy to do that. If I may respond, one of the things that is in the executive's budget for next year is funding for a legislative affairs position, which will specifically be our frontline communication to you all, and will be expected to be at not just every council meeting, but every committee meeting as our frontline, in addition to the regular staff engagement that we all have with you. So
that'd be very helpful. And again, I apologize because I know you're brand new at this, and this is probably kind of whacking you left and right. But in 2 years, we'll expect you to know everything.
Mr. Chairman, I'll do my best.
Yes, ma'am.
Through the chair to Chief Janice, are you a chief that believes during the budget process it should encompass all costs? If no, if yes, if no, please explain why.
Mr. Chair, to the council member, my answer would be yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion, any miscellaneous? Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sheriff. Thanks to your team. I appreciate it.